So here are the answers to the questions at the end of the previous chapter. Hopefully you've got all these right. So why don't you tick these off before we go on to chemical reactions. Ions. When a metal reacts with a non-metal, ions are formed. An ion is a charged particle. That's it, that's the definition of an ion. Now ions are formed because the metal gives an electron to the non-metal. Now this means there's no longer an equal number of electrons to protons. So the metal, having given an electron away, has one electron fewer. So it's got one negative charge fewer. So it now has an overall positive charge. The non-metal, having gained an electron with one electron more, it has one negative charge more, so it now has an overall negative charge. So opposites attract. The ions are held together by the strong electrostatic attractions, and this forms ionic bonds. In this example, lithium gives an electron to fluorine, so this forms Li plus and F minus. Molecules. When two non-metals react together, molecules are formed. And molecules are formed when electrons in the outer shells overlap and are shared. This forms covalent bonds. There's no giving and taking of electrons, as in ionic bonds. It's sharing of electrons. One pair of shared electrons forms one covalent bond. Here's an example. Hydrogen molecules. There are two hydrogen atoms which each share their outer electrons. So you can see this diagram, the electrons are represented by crosses. Types of chemical reaction. Oxidation. Now in an oxidation reaction, oxygen is gained. So for example, if we look at this reaction, we've got 2H2 plus O2 forms 2H2O. Hydrogen plus oxygen forms water. Now the hydrogen is oxidized because it gains oxygen. Another example, C plus O2 forms CO2. Carbon plus oxygen forms carbon dioxide. In this reaction, carbon is oxidized because it gains oxygen. Reduction. In a reduction reaction, oxygen is lost. So it's kind of the opposite of an oxidation reaction. An example of a reduction reaction, we've got iron 3 oxide being heated with carbon, forms iron plus carbon dioxide. The iron is reduced because it loses oxygen, and at the same time in this reaction the carbon is oxidized because it gains oxygen. Thermal decomposition reactions. Now in these, substances break down when heated. They decompose when heated. For example, carbonates of calcium, magnesium, copper, zinc and sodium all break down when heated. Like this, calcium carbonate, CaCO3, breaks down into, thermally decomposes into calcium oxide plus CO2. Not all carbonates of group 1 metals decompose in this way when they're heated with a Bunsen burner because it's not hot enough. Precipitation reactions. Now these aren't actually referred to in your specification as such. However, Some of the past questions and mark schemes have referred to them, so we'll just discuss what it means, precipitation reactions. Now in these, when soluble ions in separate solutions combine to form an insoluble product which settles out of solution as a solid. That's precipitation. And how many S's was that? For example, we can start out with AgNO3, brackets aqueous, that's silver nitrate solution, and react it with NaCl, brackets aqueous, that's sodium chloride solution. They'll form AgCl, brackets S, that's solid silver chloride. So we have a solid product being formed when there was no solid present before. That's precipitation. Okay, so quickly test yourself. Hopefully you've printed out all these notes so you can answer it now and find the answers at the beginning of the next chapter.